The Chosen Season 5 isn't just an ending, it's a breaking point. A moment where faith collides with love, where silence says more than words, and where the people we followed for years finally reveal what their hearts have been hiding. It's not just the story of Jesus and his followers anymore. It's the story of what love costs when you choose the divine over desire, when devotion becomes sacrifice, and when the line between acting and living starts to blur. Because this time, for the cast of The Chosen, the love we see on screen might not be entirely fiction, and what happens when that love spills over into real life might change everything. From the first moment of this season, something feels different. The tone is heavier, softer, more personal. The miracles are there, yes, but they feel smaller, almost quiet. What takes center stage now are the faces, the eyes, the tremble in a voice that says more than any line could. It's as if the entire show has become a prayer. Not shouted, but whispered. You can feel it in every scene, that deep awareness that something holy and human is coming to an end. And behind that, somewhere off camera, a connection is forming, one that no script could predict. Two co-actors who began this journey as colleagues now find themselves standing at the edge of something neither expected. Love. It started subtly. Long glances between takes, shared laughter in the stillness of early morning shoots, the kind of comfort that grows only in silence. On screen, their characters were caught between duty and devotion. Off-screen, they were living the same tension. What happens when two souls, both rooted in faith, both carrying the weight of sacred storytelling, begin to see each other not as coworkers, but as something deeper? It's the kind of love that doesn't shout. It waits. It hides. It grows in the spaces between words, just like the stories The Chosen tells. By the time filming for Season 5 began, the energy between them was undeniable. Those who watched closely noticed it, not in overt gestures, but in the stillness. When their eyes met on set, it wasn't just acting anymore. The pain felt real, the tenderness lingered too long. And though no one spoke about it, everyone felt it. The director didn't have to say cut. The emotion hung in the air like incense, impossible to ignore. Because sometimes, love finds you exactly where you shouldn't have time for it. In the middle of duty, in the shadow of faith, in the fragile balance between what's sacred and what's human. And maybe that's what makes The Chosen so extraordinary. It doesn't just tell the story of the disciples, it awakens the disciple in all of us. Every actor carries a piece of that calling. And when two of them fall in love while carrying the weight of such a story, it's not just romantic, it's spiritual. They're not falling into a Hollywood-style affair. They're falling into something pure, something that terrifies and comforts all at once. Because love, in its truest form, always demands something of you. It breaks, it builds, it transforms. As Season 5 unfolds, we see it in the performances. A deeper stillness, a shared heartbeat between scenes. Fans have started noticing. The chemistry that once felt crafted now feels lived. And as the story reaches its climax, the emotion becomes almost unbearable. Because this season doesn't just ask the audience to witness a miracle, it asks them to feel the cost of it. To feel what it means to love in silence, to serve in longing, and to walk beside someone knowing the path ends in heartbreak. Something happens midway through Season 5. Something so subtle, most viewers don't even notice it the first time. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. The way their eyes find each other across the crowd, the way their voices lower when they speak, as if the world has faded away and only they remain. It's not just performance anymore, it's presence. The boundary between character and actor dissolves like breath on glass. You can almost feel their souls recognizing each other, beyond lines, beyond lenses, beyond the story they're supposed to be telling. But here's where it becomes haunting. The show itself mirrors their real lives. In the storyline, their characters walk paths that demand sacrifice. Love, faith, and loss intertwine until you can't tell which is which. Off camera, the same energy lingers, a connection that feels both blessed and impossible. Friends close to the cast say the two often stay behind after filming, sitting in silence long after everyone has gone home. No words, no labels, just a stillness that feels sacred. It's as though the same divine thread that binds their characters has quietly wrapped around their real hearts. Fans began to sense it too, not through tabloid headlines or rumors, but through feeling. That invisible electricity that hums between two people who share something unspoken. The fandom started to whisper, is it real? Do they love each other? But neither of them confirmed anything. No posts, no interviews, no gestures to feed curiosity. And that silence, That deliberate, reverent silence made the mystery grow even louder, because in a world where everyone broadcasts their affection, these two did the opposite. They hid it like something precious, like something not meant for the world to consume. As the episodes move toward their final arc, the tension, both emotional and spiritual, builds. Every scene between them feels heavier, drenched in meaning. Their conversations, once light and routine, now carry a weight of farewell. You can sense it in their expressions, a quiet knowing that something sacred is coming to an end. One of the final sequences they filmed together was said to leave the entire crew in tears, not because of the script, but because of what was happening beneath it. The goodbye wasn't just written, it was lived. Behind the scenes, people close to the production speak of the emotional exhaustion that Season 5 brought. The filming days were long, intense, often emotionally raw. The cast prayed together more than usual. They shared moments of reflection, silence, even tears. And somewhere in those moments, those two hearts, once simply colleagues, became something more. But they never spoke of it aloud. They didn't need to. Love, when it's real, doesn't demand declaration. It reveals itself through presence, through eyes that linger a second too long, through hands that almost touch, through prayers whispered in unison when the world is asleep. But here's where it becomes painfully beautiful. They both know that what they found can't last. At least, not in the way the world understands love. Their lives are bound to the show's message: surrender, sacrifice, and faith. They know that giving in fully might destroy the sacred work they're doing. And so they hold it carefully, not rejecting it, not indulging it, just carrying it, like a secret between them and God. It's the kind of love that breaks you precisely because it can't be owned. You simply honor it. As word spreads among the crew, people start to notice changes in their performances. Every line feels heavier, every pause longer, every glance sharper. One of the writers later admitted in an interview that they rewrote certain scenes because what the actors were giving us was too raw, too real. Imagine that. Fiction rewritten by reality. A show about divine love transformed by human love. It's almost poetic, almost prophetic. And yet, the closer they move to the finale, the more fragile everything becomes. The cameras might stop, but the feelings don't. Their chemistry grows quieter, deeper, uncontainable. And when the director finally calls "that's a wrap," something breaks. Not just in the story, but in them. Because now they have to return to their own lives. Separate, ordinary, and yet forever changed. That's the moment when The Chosen becomes more than a show. It becomes a mirror, reflecting what happens when art, faith, and love collide. It asks the question none of us are ready to answer. What do you do when you fall in love in the middle of something sacred? Do you walk away to protect it? Or do you stay, knowing it could undo everything? As the final scenes air, fans will feel the ache. That slow, quiet breaking that comes not from tragedy, but from beauty. There's a moment near the end of Season 5 that feels like the air itself stops breathing. It's quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that makes you lean forward, afraid to blink, afraid to miss what your heart already knows is coming. The scene looks simple, just two people standing in the soft light of dawn, surrounded by silence. But the emotion is unbearable. You see it in their eyes, that mixture of devotion and devastation. The kind of love that asks for nothing and gives everything. The audience will feel it, even if they don't understand why, because what's happening in that moment isn't written, it's lived. What we're watching isn't acting, it's confession. And that's the power of The Chosen. It's never been just a retelling of holy stories. It's a mirror for our own hearts, for what we hide, what we crave, what we surrender. As this season ends, the show doesn't tie everything neatly with miracles and triumphs. Instead, it leaves us with something far more intimate: the cost of love. The kind that breaks quietly, the kind that sanctifies even in sorrow. When the credits roll, you'll realize you're not crying for what happened on screen. You're crying for something deeper, for the times you've loved and couldn't say it, for the prayers you whispered and never heard answered, for the holiness hidden in heartbreak. Behind the camera, the story is just as heavy. The two co-actors who captured hearts all season long find themselves standing at a crossroads they never prepared for. The connection between them hasn't faded. If anything, the final scenes have made it stronger. But the reality is cruel. They're part of something bigger than themselves. The show is a mission, not just entertainment. Every line, every breath carries weight. They know that blurring the line between their faith and their feelings could shake what The Chosen stands for. So they make a decision, a silent one, mutual and heartbreaking. They choose to protect the story, even if it means breaking their own. It's the kind of moment that defines a person, the collision between calling and longing. He looks at her with that quiet ache, the kind that says everything words can't. She smiles, soft and trembling, as if she's memorizing the moment to keep it alive inside her. They part ways with no promises, no confessions, just a knowing, a reverence, a love that was too sacred to name. And when they walk away, it feels like something divine has just been laid to rest. Not dead, but surrendered. That's not loss, that's worship. The days after filming wrap are filled with silence. The crew moves on, social media buzzes with theories, fans post clips, slow-motion edits, quotes that sound almost prophetic. Was it real? They ask. Were they in love? But those who were there say nothing, out of respect, out of understanding. Because some stories aren't meant to be told in interviews. Some are meant to be carried quietly, between two souls who once met in a sacred space and recognized themselves in each other. But something unexpected begins to happen. That love, restrained, unspoken, unresolved, begins to bleed into the world. You can feel it in the way fans respond to Season 5, the way they talk about it online. They're not just discussing favorite scenes, they're confessing. People write about their own heartbreaks, their own faith, their own longings. Somehow, the emotions these two actors buried have reached beyond the screen and touched millions. It's almost as if their silence spoke louder than any declaration could. Love that pure doesn't end. It echoes. And then comes the final episode, the one no one will ever forget. Every frame feels like a goodbye. You can feel it building. The weight, the ache, the inevitable parting. It's almost unbearable. And when the final words are spoken, something inside you breaks. Not in despair, but in reverence. Because The Chosen has never been about happy endings. It's been about truth. The raw, sacred, painful beauty of being human. About what happens when love and faith meet at the edge of surrender. When the final scene fades into silence, it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a heartbeat slowing down, whispering a prayer as it fades into eternity. What makes Season 5 so unforgettable isn't just what happens on screen. It's what it awakens in us. It reminds us that love and holiness are not opposites. They're reflections of the same light. That sometimes, to love purely, you must let go. And to let go fully, you must believe that love itself is eternal. That's what the ending teaches. Not through dialogue, but through feeling. Through eyes that say goodbye without words. Through a love that never needed to be spoken to be real. And as fans close their screens, something inside them stays open. Because The Chosen doesn't just tell the story of Jesus and his followers. It reminds us of our own stories. The people we've loved, the ones we've lost, the moments we can never return to but will always carry. Season 5 doesn't end with an answer. It ends with a question that lives in the silence afterward. When love feels divine, can it ever really die? Days turn into weeks, and yet the ache of that finale doesn't fade. People all around the world keep talking about it, replaying those final moments, trying to make sense of what they felt. There's something different about this ending, something that doesn't let you move on. It's not shock. It's not even sadness. It's recognition. You look at their faces, at those trembling smiles and tear-filled eyes, and you realize you've seen that look before. In your own life, in moments you never spoke about, in loves you had to let go of but never forgot. That's what The Chosen does better than anything else. It reminds you that the most powerful stories aren't the ones that end in triumph. They're the ones that end in truth. Behind the scenes, the world of the cast has shifted quietly. Interviews are more reserved, public appearances are limited, and though the chemistry between those two co-actors remains the topic everyone wants to explore, they both maintain a gentle silence. When asked about the intensity of Season 5, one of them simply says, "Some stories change you, and once they do, you can't go back." No names, no confessions, just a knowing smile that says more than words ever could. And in that silence, Fans hear everything. What's remarkable is how the lines between story and life keep dissolving. The actors themselves begin to mirror their characters' journeys, facing choices that test their faith, their discipline, their hearts. One begins spending long hours away from the spotlight, often seen visiting quiet places of prayer and reflection. The other pours themselves into new creative work, poetry, art, music, as if trying to process what words can't hold. They don't speak of each other, but the connection hasn't gone cold. It's transformed, deepened, matured into something unseen but alive. And yet, rumors refuse to die. Anonymous sources claim that during the final week of filming, there was a letter, handwritten, folded, and left behind on set. No one knows what it said, only that it was found near the spot where their last scene together was shot. Some say it was a goodbye, others believe it was a prayer. But whatever it was, it became part of The Chosen's quiet mythology. Another mystery layered upon a story already drenched in sacred emotion. The truth, of course, remains locked away, protected by two people who understand that some things are holier when kept hidden. As months pass, fans begin to notice small gestures, tiny, almost invisible signs that their bond endures. A subtle mention in an interview, a quote shared online, a similar photo caption posted on the same day. Nothing overt, nothing that confirms anything, yet everything that says, "I remember." And maybe that's all that love really needs. Not an announcement, not a headline, but a presence that whispers rather than shouts. In a culture obsessed with exposure, their silence becomes an act of defiance and devotion. Meanwhile, the show's creator hints that Season 6 might take the story to its emotional peak and possibly its end. But how do you end something that feels eternal? How do you close a story that refuses to stop breathing? Fans are divided. Some want closure, others say they don't want it to end at all. And in the center of it all, those two co-actors, the hearts of Season 5, stand quietly, living their truth in the shadows, letting the world wonder. Because what they shared, both on and off screen, has become bigger than themselves. It's not just love, it's legacy. There's a quiet beauty in that. In two people choosing reverence over revelation, meaning over attention. They could have turned their connection into spectacle. They could have made it part of the show's marketing, part of the noise. But instead, they guarded it. And in doing so, they gave us something rare, a reminder that love, in its purest form, doesn't need proof. It just is. It lives in the pauses, in the silences, in the moments when you feel something you can't explain. And maybe that's why the ending of Season 5 will be remembered for years to come. Because it didn't just tell us what happened to the characters, it made us feel what happens to every soul that chooses faith over comfort, truth over ease, love over fear. It showed us that endings can be sacred, even when they hurt. That some goodbyes are actually beginnings in disguise. That breaking isn't always destruction, sometimes it's transformation. As the season fades out, what lingers isn't the pain, but the peace. A quiet knowing that what was shared between those two hearts, both real and fictional, has already become part of something timeless, something that can't be undone, can't be forgotten. A love story written not for the world to watch, but for heaven to witness.